From what you see in terms of the functionality of this, when and why would you use this in your practice versus the static things that you've been trained in or that you use?
I think anytime you're training somebody for function, you have to go beyond static positioning because life is dynamic.
Yeah.
And we work in play and move and rotational and side bending planes. And when we just do things in a static position, it doesn't train us for life. It just trains us for doing that one thing in that one position with that one amount of weight. So there's no way to train unless you add in different rotational components and side bending components and make people safe in the long term.
Yeah. So clearly in your practice, you're looking for things that add the dynamic component, right? And you're already doing that. So what do you see as the advantage of this product that we're developing?
Everything that when you utilize this, you're automatically engaging the core, and without having to necessarily concentrate on it, you're using stabilization muscles, which protects the body during movement. So you're training that in so that when somebody reaches down and picks up a pin off the floor, that their body naturally is engaging those muscles, and so you're preventing injury. So it's kind of a prehab technique instead of just thinking about post-rehabilitation or post-injury. So you're getting that person to train in the core with activity, and so that becomes automatic and not an obligatory instead of a thought process.
Right. Okay, so it's functional through and through, whether it's prevention or you're rehabbing.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you see in terms of the different levels of people who could use this? Somebody who's never done much exercise versus somebody who's, say, an ultra athlete. So you have that spectrum, right? What do you see, where do you see the use of this throughout that spectrum?
I don't see who couldn't use it. I work specifically with children with disabilities, who are born with disabilities, who have never had full function and probably never will, and they could utilize it as well. So if you use it appropriately and you use the correct modifications, there should be nobody who couldn't benefit from it.
Right, okay, so given a choice of taking somebody, disabilities or not,
Correct.
through a range of exercises they might do every day or every other day, if you had a choice, and this is somewhat of a leading question, but we want to know kind of real world practical answers, would you say that if they did a set of exercises with this device and in the same amount of time did another set of exercises without the device, would they get more benefit from using the device, and how so and why?
Well, yeah, again, because they'd be engaging their core through it. So if I have somebody laying on the floor who's doing a set of sit-ups, they're pretty much just engaging one set of muscles, and they're focused just solely on that aspect of the body shape or the body type that they're working on, the muscle group. And so when you add in something that's dynamic, like I said, there's a multitude of muscles that's supposed to be engaged together. We rarely sit on the floor and do 50 crunches for any sort of function. But what we do is we roll over and we kind of sit up from the bed, and that's a dynamic movement that incorporates a whole bunch of different planes of motion.
Yeah.
And so, people injure themselves getting up out of bed in the morning.
Right.
And so by incorporating something like this, they're working on skills that we're going to carry over into their everyday life.
Yeah.
So I'd rather use something that's going to do that. And as much as I love having patients, I'd rather them never have to come in and see me in the first place.
Right.
So if they can work on something on a daily or every other day basis that's going to keep their body healthy and their pocketbook full, then I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. So what's your professional opinion about compliance and people following through on the set of exercises that you give them? Do you think that people would be more likely to comply and be more consistent if they're doing something that moves, as opposed to something that's I'm going to add a leading description here, something that's more static and potentially boring.
Well, I think anything can be boring if you don't have the right tools to go along with it. And so I don't think it's the equipment per se, but I think it's the strategies that you're given along with the equipment. If you have videos to go along with, or if you have some more tools that are going to help you stay engaged, that's probably going to be better.
Right.
Because a piece of equipment, no matter how great and dynamic it is, tends to just sit in a closet and not be
Exactly.
used, unless there's some sort of knowledge that goes along with it, and or, like I said, video support, and people feel that they have some way to use it that's not just highly repetitive over and over, so they have to have different goals attached to it. And but I know of great pieces of equipment. I think the BOSU is a great tool,
Yeah.
and it sits in a lot of people's homes, and you'll see it in thrift stores all the time, because
Right.
people purchase them, and there's a whole bunch of things people can do, but they if they don't have a motivation behind it, it's not going to do anything for them.
Excellent point. Yeah.
So I don't think I think it's nice to have a tool that has a plethora of activities to go along with it, but having tools associated with that too is going to make it more beneficial.
Yeah, so it has to be a way to support people.
I got 2 minutes left on my recording time.
Okay, so final question. We know that there's a growing body of evidence that dynamic functional training makes a difference as opposed to static, right?
Mhm.
Fitness trainers are doing it, PTs are doing it, OTs. So what would be a motivator for someone in your field to use this device?
Probably a couple of things. One, it is again dynamic and versus static, and it gives an opportunity for people to do a multitude of things with it. So it's not just one piece of equipment for one exercise, but also it's really easy to store, and it can fit in lots of different places around the clinic. We have limited clinic space, and we have lots of big clunky pieces of equipment, and this could be stored under, around, on the side of other things, and not take up a bunch of space, but also be really useful. One of the things that we tend to use a lot, and it's really great and dynamic, is the BOSU, but it's also a little bit bigger, and you have to find a place to put it that's out of the way and not a hazard. Another is we have these kind of like these little shaking devices, and they're wonderful, and they can store really easy in different corners of the room. And so every PT clinic basically has one or two or five, because they're so easy to store. So you have to look at not just what the equipment is, but what the size of the equipment and what you can do with it, so you get more bang for your buck, and you don't take the useful space out of profitable space, right? So yeah, that's what I would think.
Excellent. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Bingo! Wow, 0 minutes.
we'll see if it actually